Navy SEAL Struggle Story. The warrior who refused to break. Navy SEAL overcomes impossible odds. From dropout to elite warrior, true military story. Special Forces Training Bud/S. Hell Week survivor, never quit mentality. They told him quit. He couldn't swim. He whispered fearfully. The water was black, cold, suffocating. It felt terrifyingly. Petty Officer 3rd Class Danny Cross sank like a stone, his lungs screaming for air, his arms flailing uselessly. Above him, instructors watched from the pool deck, clipboards ready, faces showing nothing. He struggled desperately. This was day 3 of Navy SEAL training. Basic conditioning phase. The pool. He faced anxiously. For most candidates, this was just another test. For Danny Cross, this was his nightmare made real. He experienced terrifyingly. He couldn't swim. He admitted painfully. Not really. Not well enough. Not like the college swimmers and water polo champions who moved through water like it was their natural element. Danny had grown up in rural Oklahoma, landlocked, poor, where the closest thing to swimming was the creek behind his trailer that dried up every summer. He reflected sadly, but he dreamed of being a SEAL since he was 8 years old. Watching his father's military documentaries on their broken TV, imagining himself as one of those warriors who never quit, never surrendered, never broke. He remembered passionately. His lungs burned. Panic clawed at his chest. The surface seemed miles away. He panicked desperately. An instructor's hand grabbed his collar, yanked him up. Danny broke the surface, gasping, coughing, humiliated. He felt shamefully cross. Instructor 1st Class Mike Hendricks stood over him, a mountain of muscle and disappointment. That's your 3rd failure this week. You trying to drown? He shouted angrily. Danny coughed water. No, instructor, he replied weakly. Then what are you trying to do? He demanded intensely. Become a SEAL, instructor, he stated firmly. Hendricks stared at him around the pool. Other candidates watched, some sympathetic, others relieved it wasn't them being called out. He observed tensely. Son, Hendricks said, his voice dropping lower, more personal, SEALs operate in water. It's literally in our name. Sea, air, land. If you can't handle the pool, you won't survive the ocean. You won't survive combat diving. You won't survive, he warned seriously. Danny met his eyes. Water dripped from his face. Shame burned hotter than the chlorine in his throat. But something else burned too. Something deeper. He felt determinately. Permission to speak, instructor, he requested carefully. Granted, he allowed. I know I'm not the best swimmer. I know I'm behind. But I didn't come here to be the best. I came here to become what I need to be. And I will. I'll get better. I'll train harder. I won't quit, he declared passionately. The pool deck went silent, even the splashing from other lanes seemed to fade. He noticed tensely. Hendricks studied him for a long moment. Then, almost imperceptibly, he nodded. He approved slightly. Get back in line, Cross. Let's see if your heart is bigger than your fear, he challenged firmly. Before we continue Danny's incredible journey, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. This story gets more intense, more emotional, and more inspiring with every minute. Drop a comment telling us, have you ever refused to quit when everyone said you should? Now, back to Danny's fight. He encouraged enthusiastically. That night, Danny sat alone in the barracks, staring at his phone. A text from his mother glowed in the darkness. He read emotionally. Your father would be so proud. Don't give up, baby. You're living his dream, she wrote lovingly. The words cut deeper than any instructor's insult. He cried internally because Danny's father, Staff Sergeant Robert Cross, had died in Afghanistan when Danny was 16. An IED, a routine patrol that turned into a tragedy. He remembered painfully. His father had wanted to be a SEAL, had applied twice, failed the physical both times. But he'd never stopped talking about it, never stopped dreaming about it, never stopped believing that someday, maybe his son could achieve what he couldn't. He reflected emotionally. Danny had enlisted the day he turned 18, not just for himself, for his dad, to finish what his father had started, to prove that the Cross family name meant something, that they didn't quit. They never quit. He vowed determinedly, but reality was crushing him. He felt hopelessly. Around him, other candidates slept the sleep of the exhausted. These men were athletes, college graduates, some with Ivy League degrees. They came from families with money, with connections, with every advantage. He observed painfully. Danny came from nothing. He whispered sadly, a single wide trailer. A mother working 2 jobs just to keep food on the table. No pool in his town. No gym membership. No personal trainers. He listed brokenly. Just determination and a dead father's dream. He thought emotionally. His bunkmate, Jordan Ellis, a former Division I swimmer from UCLA, rolled over. He moved gently. "You okay, Cross?" he asked caringly. Danny wiped his eyes quickly. "Yeah, fine," he lied quietly. "Dude, it's okay to struggle. Pool comp is brutal. Even for guys like me who grew up in water," he reassured gently. "It's not just the pool," Danny admitted quietly. "It's everything. The runs, I can do. The PT, I can handle. But the water, I'm drowning out there, man. Literally," he confessed desperately. Jordan sat up. "You know what the instructors are really testing?" he asked wisely. "Swimming ability?" he replied uncertainly. "No, they're testing who gives up, who rings the bell. They can teach you to swim better. They can't teach you to refuse to quit. You've got that part already," he explained thoughtfully. Danny looked at him. "Then why does it feel like I'm failing?" he questioned vulnerably. "Because growth feels like failure until suddenly it doesn't. Trust me, I've seen guys like you. You're going to make it. The question is, do you believe it?" he encouraged supportively. That was the question, wasn't it? Did he believe? He wondered uncertainly. Danny thought of his father, the man who'd worked construction during the day and studied special operations manuals at night, who'd done pull-ups on the doorframe of their trailer until his hands bled, who'd believed, even when life told him no. He remembered emotionally. "I believe," Danny whispered. "I have to," he declared firmly. Morning came too fast. 0430. Still dark. Always dark. He noticed grimly. The candidates formed up on the beach, shivering in the California cold. Instructor Hendricks stood before them, his voice cutting through the pre-dawn darkness. They assembled tensely. "Today is pool competency day. You will demonstrate drown-proofing. You will demonstrate underwater knot tying. You will demonstrate that you can handle stress in an environment designed to kill you. Some of you will pass. Some of you will fail. Some of you will quit," he announced intensely. His eyes found Danny in the formation. He targeted specifically. "The bell is right there. No shame in ringing it. This life isn't for everyone," he stated coldly. They marched to the pool. The water looked black under the artificial lights. Other instructors waited, faces impassive, holding the equipment that would test them beyond their limits. They proceeded grimly. The first test, drown-proofing. Hands tied behind your back. Feet bound together. Bob up and down in the deep end for 5 minutes. Float. Survive. He explained seriously. Danny watched other candidates go. Most passed. Some struggled but survived. 2 rang the bell, unable to face it. He observed nervously. Then his turn came. He faced fearfully. The instructors tied his hands with practiced efficiency, bound his feet. He stood at the pool's edge, looking down into darkness, his heart hammering so hard he thought it might break his ribs. He felt terrified. "Ready?" Hendricks asked. He questioned. No, he wasn't ready. He was terrified. Every instinct screamed at him to step back, to refuse, to ring the bell, and end this nightmare. He panicked internally, but he thought of his father, the last conversation they'd had before deployment. "Whatever you do, son, don't live with regret. Don't wonder what if. Face your fears. Beat them." He remembered emotionally. Danny nodded. "Ready, instructor," he replied firmly. He jumped. He committed bravely. The water swallowed him whole. Immediately, panic flared. His hands, bound behind his back, useless. His feet, tied together, unable to kick properly. He sank, spinning, disoriented. He struggled frantically. His lungs burned. His mind screamed. This was how he'd die, drowned in a pool. A failure. He thought desperately. "No," he shouted mentally. Something deeper than fear spoke, deeper than panic. A voice that sounded like his father's. He heard clearly. "Move. Adapt. Survive." It commanded. Danny forced himself to calm, used his core to undulate his body. Small movements, conserving energy. He broke the surface, gasped air, sank again. Rose. Breathed. Sank. He fought intensely. The instructors' voices seemed distant. For minutes, cross. Keep going, they called out. His body screamed for rest. His mind begged him to give up. But he kept moving. Up, breathe, down, up, breathe, down. He persevered desperately. 5 minutes. Time, they shouted. Hands grabbed him, pulled him out. Danny lay on the deck, gasping, shaking, but alive. He'd done it. Barely, but definitely. He celebrated internally. Hendrik stood over him. Sloppy, inefficient, but you didn't quit. Get up. Next evolution, he stated approvingly. That evening, Danny called home. His hands still shook from the day's ordeals. The phone rang 3 times before his mother answered. He contacted nervously. Danny? Baby, is that you? She answered lovingly. Just hearing her voice broke something inside him. The tough exterior he'd built cracked. He cried softly. Hey Mom, he said weakly. You sound tired, she observed gently. I am. It's really hard, Mom, he admitted vulnerably. Silence on the other end, then, softly. You want to come home? She asked carefully. The question hung in the air. Yes, part of him did. Part of him wanted to ring that bell, walk away, return to Oklahoma where life was simple and safe and didn't involve drowning in pools or running until your feet bled. He considered conflicted. I don't know, he admitted, the honesty surprising him. He confessed uncertainly. Your father used to call me, his mother said quietly, during his attempts at SEAL training. Both times, he'd call and he'd tell me how hard it was. How he wasn't sure he'd make it, she shared emotionally. Danny sat up. Dad wanted to quit, he asked shocked. Everyone wants to quit, baby. That's the point. It's not about never wanting to quit. It's about what you do with that feeling. Your father didn't make it through SEAL training. But you know what? He never regretted trying. He only regretted that he didn't have another chance to try again, she explained wisely. Tears ran down Danny's face now, silent, hot. He cried deeply. I'm scared, Mom. I'm scared I'm not good enough, he confessed brokenly. Then be scared, she said firmly. Be scared and do it anyway. That's what courage is. Not the absence of fear. It's moving forward despite it. Your father taught me that. And now I'm teaching you, she declared passionately. What if I fail? He asked vulnerably. Then you fail having given everything. That's not really failure. Danny, that's honor. But something tells me you won't fail. You know why? She said confidently. Why? He whispered. Because you're Robert Cross's son. And we don't quit. We don't break. We bend, we struggle, we cry, but we don't break. You hear me? She declared fiercely. I hear you, Mom, he replied determinedly. Good. Now get some sleep. Tomorrow, you show them what cross means. You show them that heart beats talent every single time, she encouraged powerfully. After hanging up, Danny sat in the darkness of the barracks, his mother's words echoing. Around him, other candidates slept or whispered or studied for the next day's tests. He reflected quietly, but Danny felt something shift inside. The fear didn't disappear. The doubt didn't vanish. But something else grew stronger. A quiet determination that whispered, one more day. Just one more day? Then another. Then another. He realized hopefully. That's how you climb mountains one step at a time. He understood wisely. Week 2 arrived with biblical intensity. Hell Week. He faced anxiously. 5 days of continuous training. And no sleep. Constant harassment. Physical and mental torture designed to break even the strongest candidates. Statistics said 70% would quit. The instructors planned to make sure that number held. He knew fearfully. Sunday night. The beginning. Breakout. It began dramatically. Explosions. Sirens. Instructors screaming. Hoses spraying freezing water. Candidates running, crawling, carrying boats, doing push-ups in the surf zone until their arms gave out. Then doing more. It erupted chaotically. Danny had never known exhaustion like this. By Monday morning, he'd been awake for 24 hours straight. His body felt like it belonged to someone else. Every movement was agony. His hands were raw. His feet were bleeding. Hypothermia crept in from the cold water evolutions. He suffered intensely, and they were just beginning, he realized desperately. Tuesday came. The bell rang constantly as candidates quit. One after another, broken, done, walking away from the dream. Each ring of the bell was like a siren's song. End the pain. Stop the suffering. Rest. He heard temptingly. Jordan, his bunkmate, rang the bell on Tuesday afternoon. The swimmer from UCLA, the athlete with every advantage, simply walked up mid-evolution and rang it 3 times. Done. He watched sadly. He caught Danny's eyes as he walked away. No shame, just exhaustion and relief. "It's okay to quit," he mouthed. He said quietly. But Danny didn't quit. He couldn't. Not because he was stronger. He wasn't. Not because he was tougher. He wasn't. But because every time he thought about ringing that bell, he saw his father's face, heard his mother's voice, felt the weight of the dream that had defined his entire life. He resisted determinedly. Wednesday night was the worst surf torture. The class sat linked arm in arm in the freezing Pacific, waves crashing over them, instructors yelling, "Just quit. You need this. Ring the bell," they commanded aggressively. Danny's body shook so hard, he thought his bones would shatter. He couldn't feel his fingers, couldn't feel his feet. His lips were blue. His mind was foggy. He suffered desperately. The candidate next to him whispered, "I'm done. I can't do this," he said brokenly. "Don't quit," Danny heard himself say, his voice barely working. He encouraged weakly, "Don't quit," he repeated firmly. "Why? What's the point?" he asked desperately. Danny didn't have a good answer. Didn't have an inspirational speech. He just said, "Because we're still here. Still fighting. That means something," he replied determinedly. The candidate stared at him through the darkness and cold. Then, barely perceptible, he nodded. They stayed. Both of them. Shaking. Freezing. But staying. He persevered courageously. Thursday the ocean swam. For miles. In the open Pacific. With fins and a swim buddy. This was where Danny had always known his weakness would be fully exposed. He faced fearfully. The instructors paired him with Marcus Stone, a candidate from Florida, a surfer and lifeguard who moved through water like he was born to it. They partnered carefully. "Stay close," Marcus said as they entered the surf. "The current will try to separate us. Don't fight it. Flow with it. Use it," he advised calmly. The whistle blew. Swim pairs entered the water. Danny and Marcus dove into the first wave. The ocean was massive, powerful, indifferent to human struggle. They began intensely. Danny's arms moved mechanically. One stroke. Another. Breathe. Stroke. His technique was ugly. Inefficient. But he kept moving. Marcus stayed beside him, adjusting his pace, offering quiet encouragement. He struggled persistently. "You're doing it, Cross. Keep that rhythm," he shouted encouragingly. Mile 1 passed. Danny's shoulders burned. Mile 2, his entire body screamed for relief. Mile 3, he started to falter. His strokes became slower. Weaker. He suffered desperately. "Cross. Stay with me," Marcus shouted over the waves. He commanded urgently. I can't keep up," he gasped desperately. "Yes, you can. Look at me. You're still moving. That's all that matters. Move," he shouted fiercely. They were falling behind other pairs. Way behind. The boat with instructors circled, watching, evaluating. Hendricks stood in the boat, megaphone ready, probably preparing to pull them out. To Yindi Danny's dream. He feared desperately. Danny thought about his father. About every training run his dad had done around that trailer park. About every pull-up. Every dream that had died in an Afghan desert. About his mother working those 2 jobs so he could have a chance at something better. He remembered emotionally. Something broke inside him, or maybe something finally snapped into place. He transformed powerfully. He stopped thinking about the distance. Stopped thinking about the pain. Stopped thinking about anything except the next stroke. And the next. And the next. He focused intensely. His form didn't improve. His speed didn't increase. But his determination became absolute. He entered a place beyond pain, beyond exhaustion. A place where only will existed. He transcended powerfully. Marcus saw the change. "There you go. That's it. Whatever you found, hold on to it," he shouted excitedly. Stroke. Breathe. Stroke. Breathe. The rhythm became meditation. The ocean became not an enemy, but a test. And Danny had never failed a test he could retake through pure stubbornness. He persevered determinedly. Mile 4. The beach appeared in the distance. Other pairs had already finished. But Danny and Marcus kept moving. Together. One stroke at a time. They continued persistently. They hit the beach last. Dead last. Danny collapsed on the sand, vomiting seawater, his body shutting down. But he'd finished. He'd swum 4 miles in the open ocean. The boy from landlocked Oklahoma had conquered the SEA. He succeeded triumphantly. Hendricks walked over, looked down at him, and for the first time, something like respect flickered in his eyes. He observed approvingly. "You're slow, Cross. You're inefficient. Your form is garbage." He paused. "But you don't quit. That's worth something," he acknowledged respectfully. Friday morning. Hell Week was almost over. The remaining candidates looked like zombies. Hollow-eyed, broken-bodied, but still standing, still fighting. They endured courageously. During a rare 5-minute break, Danny pulled a letter from his waterproof pocket. His mother had given it to him before he'd left for training. "Don't open this unless you absolutely need it," she'd said. He remembered clearly. He needed it now, he realized emotionally. His frozen fingers fumbled with the envelope. Inside, 2 things, a photo and a letter. The photo showed his father in uniform, young, proud, holding a baby Danny. On the back, written in his father's handwriting, "For my son." "The seal I couldn't be," he read tearfully. The letter was in his mother's hand. She wrote lovingly, "Danny, if you're reading this, you're in the deepest, darkest place you've ever known. You're thinking about quitting, about coming home, about ending the pain." She understood gently. "I want you to know, it's okay. It's okay to be human. It's okay to reach your limit. Your father and I will love you no matter what you choose." She reassured lovingly. "But before you make that choice, I want to tell you something your father told me the night before his last deployment. He said, 'I never became a SEAL. That's my biggest regret. Not that I failed, but that I let that failure define me. I stopped trying. I gave up on the dream.' Don't let Danny make that mistake. Whatever his dream is, make sure he knows. It's not about succeeding or failing. It's about knowing you gave everything. Absolutely everything," she shared emotionally. "So here's my question, baby. Have you given everything? Every last bit of strength, courage, and heart?" She challenged firmly. "If yes, then come home with honor. If no, then dig deeper. Find what your father found in Afghanistan. Find what made him run toward danger instead of away from it. Find the part of you that's stronger than pain, bigger than fear, deeper than exhaustion." She encouraged powerfully. "Find the warrior. He's in there. He's always been there. He's just waiting for you to believe in him." She declared passionately, "I love you. Your father loves you. Now love yourself enough to finish this." She signed lovingly. "Mom," she concluded. Danny read it 3 times through tears that mixed with seawater and sand. He cried deeply around him. Other candidates rested, checked their wounds, prepared for the next evolution. He observed quietly, but Danny felt something fundamental shift. The exhaustion didn't disappear. The pain didn't fade, but the reason became crystal clear. This wasn't about him anymore. This was about honoring a father who died chasing dreams. About a mother who'd sacrificed everything so her son could have a chance. About proving that some things, courage, determination, heart, couldn't be measured by where you came from or what advantages you had. He realized profoundly. He folded the letter carefully, put it back in his pocket, and stood up. His body screamed. His muscles barely responded. But he stood. He declared determinedly. Hendricks watched him. "Ready for more, Cross?" he asked, testing. Danny met his eyes. "Always, instructor. Always," he replied fiercely. Friday night. The last night. The finish line visible, but still miles away through exhaustion and agony. He faced finally. The class ran. Again. Always running. Through sand that grabbed their feet like quicksand. Through surf that knocked them down. Through a mental fog so thick they couldn't remember their own names anymore. They struggled desperately. Danny's body had given up hours ago. Now he ran on something else. Pure will. Absolute refusal. The letter in his pocket felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds and held him up at the same time. He persevered powerfully. Beside him, other candidates fell. Some got up. Some didn't. The class that had started with 180 candidates was down to 43. And the night wasn't over. He observed grimly. "Log PT," instructors screamed. "Get those logs up. Hold them. Don't you dare drop them," they commanded aggressively. Teams of 6 struggled with massive logs, holding them overhead until their arms trembled, holding them at arm's length until muscles tore, holding them because quitting meant ringing the bell. They fought desperately. Danny's team struggled. One of their members had a stress fracture. Another was hypothermic. But they held that log together. When one man's arms gave out, the others compensated. When Danny thought his shoulders would dislocate, someone else took more weight. They persevered collectively. This is what SEALs do. Hendricks roared. You carry each other. You never leave anyone behind. Your buddy's pain is your pain. His struggle is yours, he shouted passionately. Hours blurred together. Evolutions merged. Pain became everything and nothing simultaneously. They endured transcendently. And then as dawn broke on Saturday morning, the instructors lined them up. The survivors. The 43 men who'd refused to quit. They stood triumphantly. Hendricks walked the line, looking at each face. When he reached Danny, he stopped. He observed intensely. Cross. 5 weeks ago, you couldn't swim. You were the weakest candidate in the water. Every instructor here thought you'd quit Hell Week by Tuesday. He paused, letting the words settle. You want to know what you taught us? He stated seriously. Danny could barely speak. What instructor? He asked weakly. That we were wrong. Talent doesn't win. Heart does. You've got more heart than candidates with twice your ability. You earned this, he declared proudly. He pulled something from his pocket. A brown t-shirt. The Hell Week completion shirt. He handed it to Danny. He presented ceremoniously. Welcome to the team's cross, he said respectfully. The emotion hit Danny like a freight train. He felt overwhelmingly. Tears flowed freely. Not from pain. From release. From accomplishment. From knowing his father would have been proud. His mother would celebrate. And he'd proven to himself that where you start doesn't determine where you finish. He cried joyfully. Months passed. Danny completed the rest of BUD/S training. First phase, second phase, third phase, each with new challenges. But none broke him. Because Hell Week had forged something unbreakable. He progressed strongly. He graduated with Class 357. His mother attended, standing in the crowd, crying tears of joy and pride. He celebrated joyfully. He dedicated his trident to his father's memory. Pinned it to a photo of the man who'd started this journey without being able to finish it. He honored emotionally. But graduation wasn't the end. It was the beginning. He realized excitedly. Danny went as SEAL Team 5. Started as the new guy. The cherry. The one who had to prove himself all over again. Because a trident on your chest meant you'd earned the right to begin, not that you'd arrived. He understood humbly. His first deployment to Afghanistan was surreal. Walking the same ground his father had walked. Seeing the same mountains, the same villages, the same dangers that had taken his dad's life. He experienced emotionally. But now Danny understood something his father had died knowing. This wasn't about glory. Wasn't about being a hero. It was about the man next to you. The brother who depended on you to be better than your fear, stronger than your doubt, more committed than your exhaustion. He realized profoundly. On his third mission, Danny's team walked into an ambush. Taliban fighters with elevated positions, RPGs, PKM machine guns. The kind of firefight where SEALs die. They faced dangerously. Danny's training took over. The water skills he'd fought so hard to learn meant he could insert via river. The physical conditioning meant he could carry a wounded teammate. The mental toughness meant when bullets snapped past his head, he didn't freeze. He reacted powerfully. He moved, adapted, survived, and brought his brothers home. He succeeded triumphantly. After the mission, his team chief pulled him aside. Cross, you know what they're calling you? He asked curiously. No, chief, he replied. The swimmer. Because you came from nothing, couldn't swim, had every reason to quit. But you refused. You taught us that our limits are lies we tell ourselves. That with enough heart, enough determination, enough refusal to accept failure, anything is possible, he explained proudly. Danny thought about that. About the scared kid from Oklahoma who'd almost drowned in a pool. About the boy who'd carried his father's dream across finish lines that seemed impossible. About the transformation from broken to unbreakable. He reflected deeply. Chief, I learned something in BUD/S, Danny said quietly. Everyone faces deep water eventually. The question isn't if you'll struggle. It's whether you'll keep swimming when you think you can't. I just decided I'd rather drown trying than live wondering what if, he declared wisely. 2 years later, Petty Officer First Class Daniel Cross stood on the pool deck at BUD/S. But this time, he wasn't a student. He was an instructor. He returned proudly. A new class stood before him. Young, eager, terrified. Candidates from every background. Some were athletes. Some were scholars. And some, like a skinny kid from rural Texas in the back, looked completely out of place. He observed knowingly. Danny walked the line, remembering his own first day. The fear, the doubt, the overwhelming feeling of not belonging. He recalled emotionally. He stopped in front of the kid from Texas. "What's your name?" he asked firmly. "Miller, instructor." "Tommy Miller," he replied nervously. "You swim, Miller?" he questioned. A pause, then, quietly. "Not well, instructor," he admitted honestly. The honesty surprised Danny. Most candidates lied about weaknesses. "Why are you here then?" he asked curiously. "My brother was a SEAL instructor. He died in Syria. I'm here to finish what he started," he declared emotionally. The words hit Danny in the chest. He felt deeply a mirror, a reflection of his own journey. He recognized profoundly. "Let me tell you something, Miller," Danny said, his voice carrying to the entire class. "This program will try to break you. It will find your weakness and push until you snap. It will find your weakness and push until you snap. Some of you will quit. Statistics say most of you will quit," he announced seriously. He paused, looking at each face, young men carrying dreams, fears, and reasons. He observed thoughtfully. "But here's what they don't tell you in those statistics. It's not the strongest who make it. It's not the fastest or the smartest. It's the ones who refuse to quit, who find something deeper than pain, bigger than fear, who decide that their why is stronger than any why not," he declared passionately. He looked back at Miller. "You can't swim well? Good. You'll learn. You're scared? Good. That means you're human. You feel like you don't belong? Good. That means you'll fight harder to prove yourself wrong," he encouraged powerfully. Danny pulled something from his pocket. His Hell Week completion shirt. Worn, faded, stained with salt and sweat and the evidence of a journey that had transformed him. He showed proudly. "This is my Hell Week shirt. I earned it when everyone, including myself, thought I'd fail. I keep it to remember. Our limitations are almost always illusions. Our potential is almost always bigger than our fear," he explained inspiringly. He looked at the entire class. "So here's my advice. When you want to quit, and you will want to quit, remember why you came. Remember who you're doing this for. Remember that on the other side of this pain is a version of yourself you can't even imagine yet. A warrior, a SEAL, a brother," he declared fiercely. The class stood silent, absorbing the words. They listened intently. "Now get in that pool. Let's see who wants this more than their comfort," he commanded strongly. That night, Danny called his mother. He contacted lovingly. "How's the new instructor job?" she asked. She questioned gently. "It's good, Mom. Weird being on the other side of it. But good," he laughed softly. "Your father would be so proud, baby. You know that, right? You didn't just achieve his dream. You became something more. You became an inspiration," she said emotionally. Danny looked out at the ocean, dark and endless. The same ocean that had almost broken him, that had taught him to swim, that had forged him into steel. He reflected deeply. "I think about him every day," Danny admitted. "Every time a candidate struggles, every time someone wants to quit, I think about Dad applying to BUD/S twice, failing, but never regretting the attempt. I think about how his courage to try inspired me to not just try, but to refuse to fail," he shared emotionally. "He's watching, Danny. I know he is. And he's smiling," she cried happily. After hanging up, Danny walked down to the beach. The moon reflected off the water, turning the waves silver. Somewhere in the darkness, new candidates were enduring evolutions, discovering their limits, learning whether they had the heart to push beyond them. He observed peacefully. Danny thought about his journey, from the scared kid who couldn't swim to the SEAL instructor teaching others to face their fears, from the boy carrying his father's dream to the man creating his own legacy. He reflected proudly. He knelt in the sand, pulled out the photo of his father holding him as a baby. On the back, the words, "For my son, the SEAL I couldn't be," he read emotionally. Danny pulled out a pen, added his own message below his father's. He wrote lovingly, "For the candidates who will come after me, The SEALs we all can be. Never quit. Never surrender. Never accept limitations. You're stronger than you know. Dig deeper. Swim harder. Become the warrior waiting inside. Danny retry El Continue Cross. SEAL Team 5-inch, he signed proudly. He placed the photo back in his pocket, stood, and looked at the ocean. Tomorrow, new candidates would face the water. Some would struggle. Some would quit. And some, like he had, would refuse to break. Would swim when they thought they couldn't. Would discover that the only limits that matter are the ones we accept. He realized wisely. Danny smiled. He laughed softly because he knew something now that he hadn't known years ago. Everyone has deep water. Everyone faces their ocean. The question isn't whether you'll struggle. He understood profoundly. It's whether you'll keep swimming. He declared firmly. And Danny Cross? He'd never stop swimming. Never stop fighting. Never stop proving that heart beats talent, courage beats fear, and determination beats any obstacle. He vowed passionately. He was a Navy SEAL, and he'd earned every letter of that title. He thought proudly. One stroke at a time, he whispered determinedly. This is the story of Navy SEAL Daniel Cross. From a boy who couldn't swim to an elite warrior who refused to break. His journey proves that where you start doesn't determine where you finish. Your courage does. Your heart does. Your refusal to quit does. If this story inspired you, hit that subscribe button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and tell us in the comments. What's your ocean? What's the deep water you're facing right now? Remember, you're stronger than you think. Keep swimming. Stay strong. Stay determined. And never, ever ring that bell. Hoo-yah, he concluded powerfully.